Hi everyone, welcome to Tuesday's Thought for the Day. My name is Okena and I'm going to speak about ways through which God speaks to us. Now, I've heard people say God has spoken to them, with absolute certainty, and I've wondered how can we always be sure that it's indeed the voice of God we hear? Because there's sometimes where we do hear the voice of God, but we're not entirely sure. Is it God speaking to us, or perhaps it's our thoughts? So, how do we know for sure that this is God speaking to us at any point in time? Um, so I looked at some examples in the Bible of when God has spoken to his prophets or spoken to the people of Israel. And I came across the case of Elijah, whom God spoke to in a gentle whisper, as the Bible refers to it as, or a small whisper in some versions. So that's one way in which God speaks to us. Another way He's spoken to people in the Bible is by appearing in their dreams, as is in the case of Joseph, where He sent an angel to speak to him in his dream. And there are lots of ways, other ways in the Bible. In the case of Jesus at his baptism, the way in which God spoke to him was so profound. The Bible says that the heavens opened up, and the Spirit of God came down as a dove from heavens. And I'm sure everyone there who was there would have witnessed it. So there was absolutely no uncertainty that it was indeed God who, at that time, said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased." So there are cases where I think it's very clear that it's indeed the voice of God, and I think there are other cases. So, going to the story of Gideon in the book of Judges in the Old Testament. Now, Gideon was making some food when an angel of God appeared to him, sat under a tree, a bit like where I'm sitting right now. And the angel of God approached him and called him mighty warrior, and basically said to him that it's you're going to save the nation of Israel from your enemies. And Gideon at that time looked at the angel of God and said, "My Lord, um, not only am I the weakest in my clan and in my family, but my clan is actually the weakest in the land. So maybe you might be speaking to the wrong person." So he doubted that this angel or this stranger speaking to him could actually be an angel of God. So he said, "Do you know what? I'm going to test you, and just wait right here. I'm going to go into my house and bring some food, and if you can consume it with fire, then I'll know for sure that you're indeed the Lord." So he did that, and the angel of God did with his staff burn up the offering which Gideon had presented. So at that point, Gideon said, "Wow, okay, you indeed are the Lord." So now, and then he believed, because he set a test which the angel of God performed, and so he believed. Um, and you'd think that was enough, but shortly down the line, when it was time for Angel to go out and indeed defend Israel, Gideon said to God, and he said, "Lord, I really need to be sure, and so I'm going to set another test." And he said, "I'm going to leave my fleece out, and in the morning, if there's dew on the fleece, but the ground is dry, then I'll know it's really, really you speaking to me." So he did that, and at that point, God must have been thinking, "Okay, why do I need to prove myself to Gideon over and over again? Right? I could easily go with someone else." But I think God deliberately sometimes chooses to use the least amongst men, or amongst us, to make them, mighty warrior, as the angel referred to him as. So God said, "Okay," and the next morning he did that, and he came out, and the fleece was indeed wet, and the rest of the ground was dry around it. So Gideon said, "Okay, yes, it's definitely the Lord speaking to me now." And then Gideon said to God after the second test, "Please don't be angry with me, but I have just one more test. I'm going to leave my fleece out again, but next time, please make the rest of the ground wet, but my fleece dry from dew in the next morning." And so the third test, and God indulged him, and he came out the next morning, and the rest of the ground was wet and the fleece was dry. So then Gideon said, "Okay, now I know with absolute certainty that it is the voice of God speaking to me." Now, I relate that to our story and to myself because sometimes we hear the voice of God and we're not entirely sure. And I think it's okay for us to say, do you know what, God, if this is you speaking to me, please reveal yourself, show me, speak to me, or reveal yourself in a way that removes all doubts from me. Sometimes we don't really want to do that because we don't want to appear to be testing God. But I've learned to pray as Gideon did, to say, Lord, I'm not sure this is from you. This is a bold step you're asking me to take. So please reveal yourself and guide me. And I think God understands that as humans, we're flawed. We sometimes need reassurance. And He is a kind and is a loving God. He's a God of patience, He's a God of love, and He's a God of kindness. So I think He'll understand. So this applies to us when we need reassurance of His presence in our life, when we need that extra bit of push to step out in faith, and do the things He set us for. So my takeaway is that when I'm not sure, when I feel like God is speaking to me, I think sometimes it's okay to ask Him for that little bit of reassurance. So have a blessed day. God bless you and take good care of yourselves.